This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Be aware I am not a medical doctor, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. But I hope you still enjoy. Hey friends, welcome to the Gluten-Free Advocate, a Substack and podcast that helps me process my health journey and my determination to pretend that those health conditions don't exist at all. If you're looking for tips, tricks, and learnings for traveling the world with celiac disease and type 1.5 diabetes, you have come to the right place. Now, let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Gluten-Free Advocate. So excited to be having you guys for another podcast episode, and I'm really excited to share this conversation with you with Catalin. She is been someone that I've been following for a really long time, since I moved to Italy way back a couple of years ago, and she was really helpful, making me feel like living in Italy with celiac disease was possible. I knew it from my own adventures, but seeing someone living my dreams just made me feel like seeing was believing. And now she has started this organization, Celiacs in Europe, and this whole infrastructure of making traveling through Europe with celiac disease feel achievable and feel like it's manageable and it's possible. So I'm really excited to be able to talk to her as this journey is really starting to get going. And I don't remember if I got to tell her this, but she's part of the reason why this podcast came back. So thank you so much for that. And I'm really looking forward to having you guys hear this conversation. And hopefully this is helpful and inspiring for all of you that are hoping to travel through Europe in the upcoming months. All right. So welcome. So excited to have you here. As I said before we started recording, I've been following you for quite a while. So very excited to finally be able to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we're going to get into celiacs in Europe. I'm so excited to talk about that. As someone that travels a lot and has been wanting something like that for a long time, I'm so thrilled. But I want to also get to know you and your story a little bit. So for celiacs, it's always what's your celiac diagnosis story of how we get to know each other. That's how we get into it. So is it okay if I ask you for that story?
Yeah, of course.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's a long story.
Love it.
So obviously my name is Catalin Verela, and because I speak about Italy, I feel that I have to address the elephant in the room, which is my accent, and that I'm not Italian. I am from the States. I am originally from Denver, Colorado, but I've been in Italy for about 6 years now.
Oh, wow.
And I was diagnosed a decade ago. So I spent the first few years of my diagnosis in the States. Like every celiac, my diagnosis journey was anything but straightforward. Is about as looped around in circles as it possibly could have been. I basically just got incredibly sick overnight, and no one's going to be shocked when I say no doctor had any explanation for that. They tested me for everything under the sun, from like flu to cancer, and they started pursuing a misdiagnosis of cancer, which, as you can imagine, was pretty upending.
Yeah.
And also insightful, because I just suddenly had this like epiphany of like, gee, I really could just have cancer and like not be here tomorrow. And so then I decided to like dye my hair pink and do all sorts of crazy things. So I thought, well, at the very least, we're gonna like go out with a bang.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was after I dyed my hair pink that they said, "Oh, haha, it's not that. You actually have celiac." Like, cool. Well, now I have pink hair, so that's great. Um, but all this to say, celiac disease felt a little bit more like a relief, I guess, to me, because it was like, well, in comparison to this other diagnosis, that seems doable.
Yeah.
Obviously, then I like started to get into the nitty gritty of what that actually meant. I didn't even know what gluten was before I was diagnosed. Right. So then I realized maybe it's not incredibly doable, and it was quite a learning curve to figure out what the heck that meant. But yeah, long story short, that is how I joined the Celiac Club 10 years ago.
Oh, I hate and love that for you. Because I can relate. I've gotten several false diagnoses of cancer myself. So it's an interesting journey.
You're not the first person. I always think this is insane, and surely no one has experienced this before, but I've actually met quite a handful of celiacs who say, oh yeah, me too. That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy making. Like, I don't even know where to begin, but I went to film school, so I can't tell the doctors that they need to get their act together because what do I know? But so you had this diagnosis and you're now living in Italy, but I'm curious of like the travel origin story of for me, I was diagnosed at 15, so a
Mhm.
long time ago. And I really had always wanted to study abroad. I always wanted to travel the world and see the world. And with the celiac disease diagnosis, I thought I would just never get to go.
Mhm.
So, did you have a journey with that yourself? How did you basically what got you to have this wanderlust and got you eventually over there? Was the fake cancer diagnosis just kick you into high gear of achieving all the dreams?
A little mix of everything.
Yeah.
You said once I was diagnosed, travel felt like the one thing that was off limits. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I've figured out what gluten is. I have sort of kind of figured out how to avoid it, but it still seems really elusive. Um, but then I thought, eating outside of my own kitchen, there's no way that's
Yeah.
happening. Like, I don't
Right.
know how to deal with that. And it took me quite a few years to just be healthy enough physically to even start to consider this.
Yeah.
It took a really big toll on me. I lost a ton of weight and I had a lot of like neurological symptoms with my diagnosis. So it took me a really long time to come back to meet myself as a person.
Mm.
I went to the Institute of Integrative Nutrition for a year through their
Wow.
like certified health coach program, which was really self-centered in that I was like, I just have to figure out how to take care of myself first. Then of course it like sparked this interest in supporting other people. But really I went because
Yeah.
I thought I can't live on my mom cooking food for me all the time. So I'm gonna have to like learn how to be independent. Um, and then from there, I pursued a degree in medical anthropology from Goddard University in Vermont. Incredibly niche, and even more so niche. I wrote my thesis about celiac disease and how different countries approach gluten-free eating differently, and how that impacts our quality of life. So I was writing this thesis and traveled all over while I was doing it, and I essentially just threw myself into these situations and in these countries and let's see how their infrastructure is set up and how that affects me. Um, that's what brought me to Italy in the first place. And I had that same misconception that everybody has of like, this is going to be the worst experience. I'm going to live off of beef jerky and trail mix for this entire week.
Yeah.
Um, and counterintuitively had a very different experience, found it to be quite um, welcoming from a celiac
Yeah.
perspective. And there was just this intangible sense of I felt more at home in Florence specifically is where I live. I feel more at home in Florence than I ever felt living in the States. And
Yep.
that was the start of where we are now.
I felt the same in Verona, and I'm going back. There's a celiac cruise that's leaving out of Italy. And it's leaving out of Ravenna, so it's
Mhm.
more close to Venice, but I was like, I have to do a pit stop in Verona because that's my true home. I miss it so much.
Yeah.
But that's incredible. So what did you find at your thesis? What was there the best country that had the best infrastructure, or what was the recommendation or the concluding argument in your thesis? I don't know. It's been a while since I've had to do that.
Um, well, Italy, in my completely unbiased opinion, which is
Yeah.
why I ended up here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
in more ways than one. Like there's the literal sense of our Italian Celiac Association, Associazione Italiana Celiachia, is way more set up than any other national celiac association in the world. We have programs that don't exist anywhere else. We, as a country, have always led the way in celiac research and accommodation, and I think there's also this social element of like food is at the absolute epicenter of the sharing of Italian culture, that I think there's a huge emphasis on making sure that everybody can participate in that regardless of dietary restriction, because if you couldn't, like, what are you doing? That's If you can't sit at the table with an Italian and share stories and talk and have a glass of wine, like you're missing out on
Yeah.
90% of the sharing of the culture. Um,
Yep.
so I think all of these things kind of join together to make Italy a pretty welcoming place.
I love that. So I guess that's a good segue into celiacs in Europe. Of you've been thinking about this clearly for a long time, of how each country functions in the relationship to celiac disease. Quick story for you, which you probably don't care, but in Australia, we were talking, and there was one woman that said that she really wants to travel to Europe, but she's really nervous and hasn't been able to find good tools or aids. And I had been scrolling through Instagram that morning and came across celiacs in Europe. And I was like, and I knew it was associated with you. I'd figured that out. I was like, she seems trustworthy. I've been following her for quite a while. So I think she knows what she's doing. And I was like, you should go check out celiacs in Europe. And
Thank you
immediately
so
everybody
much.
took out their phones and started scrolling and finding you. So I hope that mention like brings you business and has helped you in some way.
I
Uh,
appreciate it. Thank you for doing art for us.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna say I haven't vetted it myself yet, but it made me determined to bring you on this podcast because just I wanted to be able to meet you and then have other folks from the Australia family to get to know you a little bit. So, can you
Thank
tell
you.
me the journey of celiacs in Europe? I know that it started as a one-on-one travel consultation thing, but how did it evolve from there?
Well, it started even before that.
Yeah.
I moved to Italy during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Crazy decision,
Yeah.
which really came down to the fact that I had a visa that was going to expire, and as I'm sure you know, the bureaucracy is pretty insopportabile in Italian. It's awful. It's not doable. So I said, "There's no way that I'm doing this again. So either I'm moving now or we're not doing it."
Yep.
Moved during the pandemic. Obviously, didn't have a whole lot to do in that phase of my life. And I decided to start teaching gluten-free pasta making classes like virtually out of my
Oh,
tiny Italian
wow.
kitchen. I'm not a chef. I make pasta at home because I like to make
Yeah.
pasta. Truly, I'm not like a subject matter by any stretch of the imagination. But some sort of like celiac Facebook group caught on to this, and there were like 50 people in this first class that I was doing, and I am so far out of my depth. I'm making it up the entire time. And everyone's like, "Oh, when are you going to teach next?" And I was like, "Well, next weekend, obviously." And that just kind of continued in that way. We made tiramisu, we made pasta, we did all these things.
Yeah.
And then as the world started to open up a bit more, people were asking me for recommendations. Where should I go? And I had this light bulb moment of like, okay, I'm in a really unique position in that I am a native English speaker. By that point, quite fluent and competent in Italian. I'm a celiac myself. I live here full time. I feel like this could be a really great resource. And so I started offering these consultations for Italy specifically. And that became my full time job, like really quite quickly. So I've been doing that since, I guess that was the start of 2021. Um, and I love it. That's still what I do now. It's my favorite. I love to get to talk to other celiacs, and I joke that I just like vicariously traveling through their travels because I get to see all of the fun things that they're doing. Um, and then gradually, this I had this idea in the back of my head of like, this is a really cool model that could be replicated in other places, and I know that somebody else will catch on to it eventually, but I initiated this. I have the SOPs in place. Like, I might as well be the person to expand this. So that is what we did last year. In May, we expanded into celiacs in Europe. So now I have a team. It's 5 of us total across 5 different countries that are essentially doing the exact same thing that I do in Italy. So they offer these one-to-one travel consultations for other European countries as well.
Amazing. And are you hoping, how do you make the decision of who gets to be part of your team and the infrastructure that's built within that? Because I recognize some names and then
Yeah,
others I'm now getting to know. So, what's that process for you of people that you want on your team?
it's safe to say that I'm very picky. First and foremost, everybody on our team is either celiac or related to the gluten-free diet in some way. My exception is obviously Matt, but all of us on the team are celiac or gluten-free for some reason. First and foremost, they all of the consultants live in the country that they represent. So our Spain consultant lives in Madrid. they all have to speak both the local language of the country that they support and English, obviously, because our clients are predominantly English speakers. And then really I'm just looking for not only expertise and competence in their knowledge of the gluten-free scene in the country that they represent, but um, professionalism, of course, but personality. Like, I think half the battle is that people feel comfortable talking to me. I think people feel like we're best friends. I am silly and make jokes, and it's like not serious in any way. So I like that element too.
I love that. So for the folks that are looking into, I saw that there's a couple of different tiers that they
Mm-hmm.
could book with you guys. So does it work of you're doing food group tours or it's truly just consultations? What are the different tiers that you guys offer?
So those virtual consultations I've said are our gluten-free bread and
Yep.
butter of the business.
Yep.
So the three levels, we've kind of cheekily named them after airline travel. So economy, business, and first class. The economy consultation is just a half hour, so it's a good starting point. Often we speak to people in that way when they're brainstorming and considering, maybe I want to go to this place, and they just want to better understand what it looks like. The business level is an hour consultation, and then other than the UK, for all the rest of the countries, we offer to help with up to 3 reservations on people's behalf. In a lot of
Okay.
these countries, Italy specifically, but this is the case also in Spain, France, and Greece, it's a phone call to make a reservation, which is really quite terrifying if you don't speak the language. So we
Yep.
offer to step in that way. And then the first class consultation is also an hour. We help with up to 5 reservations in that case. In these hour consultations, we always follow up with personalized notes. So we keep track of what we're talking about in the call. And then you get a cute little PDF with your name on it that has all the little notes and links and everything that we chatted about in the hour. So those are our virtual consultations. That's our main focus. But I know you're catching on to the fact that we have a few other things on our site, and we're starting to expand into this world of in-person experiences.
Oh, nice.
So we've got a gluten-free walking tour in Rome. That's an in-person experience, and I'm investing a lot of time and energy into expanding this into other countries. So
Yeah.
we're on to
Yeah.
something.
That's so exciting. There's the one and only time I've ever gotten to do a food tour was in Barcelona. And it was incredible to get to feel like a normal tourist getting to do food
Yeah.
tours. It was heartbreaking in Sicily not being able to do a food tour.
Yeah.
But Rome, that's such a good city to start that off in. That's so exciting.
Yeah. I think there's something really special about being able to connect face to face with other celiacs and with someone who knows their city inside and out. So, yeah, it's been really fun to expand into that area of the business.
Yeah. Do you feel that there's a lot of requests for other countries that you're like, ooh, okay, that's surprising. I guess I'll have to start looking into that one. How do you determine what countries you start working in?
For these consultations, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The 5 that we've got now, I do Italy, and then we're in Spain, Greece, France, and the UK. Those were like my big 5, and I knew from the beginning that I wanted those on board. And it's been gradual. We didn't just like jump off the bridge with 5. We started with a few, and it's gotten bigger. So I definitely have in the back of my mind some other countries potentially that we would like to expand into, but it's also worth noting that I went from a one woman show to a whole team in a pretty short amount of time. So for my
Yeah.
own mental health, I have to
Yeah.
pace, otherwise I get overwhelmed.
I'm so impressed by that because I'm someone that definitely my eyes are bigger than my stomach. And I type of person where I just get too excited and I jump off the cliff and then I burn out. So you have to teach me your ways and more than one capacity. It's
Naps,
incredible.
that's
Yeah.
that's
That's a good one. I like that. Okay, I'll have to try that more.
yeah, it's definitely been a transition, a fun transition, and I've
Yeah.
loved stepping into the role of more of a leadership role for a group than it just being me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different to have other people who are looking to you for support and guidance than just like me who works at
Yeah.
whatever hour I feel like it, you know?
Yeah. Yes. So
Yeah.
I guess that's a good segue to another question that I had for you of this is the gluten-free advocate, right, podcast. So my big thing is advocacy and how to advocate for yourself, but you are in a very interesting position where through your consulting, you are an advocate for yourself and you're becoming an advocate for others in their travel. And there's a lot of responsibility, which is also a big thing that I admire and respect about you and what you're trying to do here and what you're accomplishing here. So, as far as advocating for yourself and going to restaurants and traveling, what are some tips and tricks that you learned along the way that you could perhaps impart wisdom to others? Because I know it's a thing that celiacs struggle a lot with.
Good question. I've always been a proponent of having at least some sort of basic language understanding for the place that you're going. And that doesn't mean that you have to actually carry on an entire conversation, but I think at the very least you should know how to say hello, please, thank you, gluten-free, and celiac in the language that you are traveling to. I think without those
Yeah.
things you might feel stressed. Without some Duolingo, I feel confident in your ability to learn it, but I think that's really important. The confidence is a huge piece of it, and I'm sure that this is something that you talk about a lot, but I've always said that my celiac diagnosis really challenged me to step into a level of confidence that I did not have before. um, it's quite
Yeah.
uncomfortable to like be the person at the dinner table that's like, hi, I'm going to be super annoying and pester you with a whole bunch of questions. And I used to feel that way, like insecure and, oh my god, I don't want to be that person who's so annoying. But now it's become such an integral part of my personality that I'm like,
Yeah.
if that bothers you, I'm really sorry, but that doesn't change a whole lot for me.
Yeah. Sounds like a you problem. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
And does it feel all the more empowering to be able to help others through that process now through celiacs in Europe? What impact has that been making on you so far? It has to be all sorts of emotions, a big range of them.
Course. Yes. My day is made every time I see one of our Google reviews because the celiac community is so sweet, and if you support them in the
Yeah.
right way, they will go to the absolute ends of the earth, and I really appreciate that. But we get
Yeah.
really sweet reviews, and people say all the time like, I was terrified and you guys really helped me feel at ease and like I'm capable of taking this trip. And that was what was most important to me, because I have also felt that sense of fear. I'm like, oh my god,
Mm,
this how am I going to do this? I'm so afraid, maybe I shouldn't do it. And I've never wanted my diagnosis to stop me from experiencing life in the way
mm,
that I wanted, and I don't want that for other people too. So yeah,
yeah.
seeing our reviews is like the highlight of of my day.
Yeah. So you've had celiac for 10 years. You've now been doing, a lot of aiding and helping others. What do you wish that you knew 10 years ago that you know now as far as traveling? I know that was not a question that I told you I was going to ask you ahead of time.
Bring
So
it
if
on
you
me,
need to take a
Ashley.
second, yeah, you're inspiring me with all these things that it's just coming to my brain. So,
That's a good question. I guess I wish I could just reassure myself a little bit, because I
yeah,
there was definitely a moment where I was quite convinced like that's not in the cards for me. I don't think that, I mean, I never would have imagined that I'd move to the other side of the world. That certainly wasn't like
yeah,
a long-term plan that I had. It just kind of happened. But yeah, I kind of wish I could go back and like give smaller me a hug and be like, it's gonna be
yeah,
fine, because this girlfriend was real stressed out for a
yeah.
while.
Yeah, that's oh gosh, it's too much like when you think about it. Like I don't even think I understood the gravity of what was happening where because I was so young that now as an adult I'm like, "Oh god, like what a horrible
Yes.
transition that I went through." I dealt with quite a bit. And
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, it makes you resilient and the confidence man is just out of this world because of the celiac diagnosis. So,
Yeah. I sort of feel that there's like some retroactive healing emotionally that has to take place. And
yeah.
maybe this isn't the case for everybody, but my experience at least was that physically I was so sick, and then after so wrapped up in physically healing that there like wasn't even time or space to address or grieve what that meant in my life. And it wasn't
Yeah.
until years later, and this current phase of my life that I thought, gee, like maybe I should go to therapy and think about that and journal my feelings and process this a little bit, because there wasn't the space for that before.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right.
Hmm.
And look at you now living in Italy and Florence, which Florence is such a great city. What is the best part about living in Florence for you?
Ooh, I love Florence. It's my favorite city in the world. In my completely unbiased opinion.
Yeah.
Um, it's got its pros and cons like any other place, and that was also a
Yeah.
process. I moved with
Yeah.
my like very dolce vita, dolce far niente kind of perspective, and thought my life is going to be so perfect and fantastic and great in every way once I moved to
Yeah.
Italy. It is great and wonderful, and also not perfect.
Yeah.
So we've had some acceptance there as well. I Some of the things that I really love about Florence: gluten-free options. Obviously, that's changed
Yeah.
my life. I can have the best gluten-free pasta in the world within a 10-minute walk from my apartment, and I feel very spoiled and lucky in that way. um, I love that it's such a walkable city. That was a new experience for me growing up in like suburb Colorado. I never went anywhere without getting into a car, so the fact that
Yeah.
I haven't owned a car and can't even drive in Italy for the last 6 years is wild. It's not impeding my life. I don't know how that's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there are just certain factors of Italian culture that I relate to more than I ever related to American culture. So I feel at home in that regard.
Oh gosh. Is there another city in Italy? Florence was my top. That's where I wanted to go when I was going to move over there. And then they're like, no, the bureaucracy is just too big in there. You have to go to a smaller
It's
city. And then I
terrible. I'm
ended
not
up,
gonna lie.
yeah. So that's what ended up having me go to Verona. And, I moved there sight unseen. I had never been. And I was like, all right, well, here we go. I'm going to get to know it real well. Uh, but is there any other city where you're like, for gluten-free purposes, you're like, go and visit this city in Italy? Is it Rome or
Hmm.
Venice?
Rome has great gluten-free options. Um, yeah, lots of bakeries, especially in comparison
Yeah.
to Florence is like a tiny town in comparison to Rome. So
Yes.
it's fun to me to go like see all the gluten-free bakeries that they have over there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I really like Milan. It sort of gets
Mm,
mixed reviews. Like some people feel a certain way and don't like Milan. I suppose you could accurately define it as like the New York City of Italy. So I get it. I think it's cool. I like it. It's a change of pace. It feels very like metropolitan and fancy, and everyone's going to their 9 to 5. I'm in Milan, and Florence feels like Disneyland. So it's actually kind of refreshing to be around
yeah.
like real
Yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah.
But they've got some great gluten-free options there as well.
I have to go back to Milan because I think I saw it on a bad day. I have to go back
Oh no,
because so many people love it. And I think, well, here was my first mistake. I went in August when no one is going to be there and everything was
that's
closed. It
terrible.
was terrible. Yeah, it was terrible. So I definitely have to come back at some point and then I'll sign up for a consultation and you'll tell me where to go and eat.
Well, let me take this opportunity to make a PSA that you should not visit Italy in anywhere in Italy in August if you're planning a trip, and in literally
Yeah.
any other time in August.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Even in the cities where there are people, because Verona, everybody was still very much there and active, but it was because it was like one of the few places everybody was there. And was like, oh God, I can't walk. Uh, crazy. But yeah. Yeah. And Florence was, before I left, it was the last place I went to because I just love it so much. So I'm jealous. I'll have to come visit you as well in Florence. it's it's such a great city.
I
Um,
like that.
so just a couple uh last questions for you, and then I'll let you go because you've been so kind to give me your time, and I appreciate it so much.
Oh, yeah.
So for traveling, I know we talked about advocating for yourself in the day to day. As far as a celiac traveling, are there any tips or tricks that you feel is important, of whether it be making sure you pack certain things for the flight, or once you get there making sure you have X, Y, and Z, what have you? What are your top tips and tricks for traveling?
Hmm. My party line has become thinking meals over snacks. And this has become my party line because I see
Okay.
a lot of celiacs travel with their like gallon-sized bag of beef jerky and trail mix. And I love beef jerky and trail mix. And I also think that you will kill somebody if that's the only thing that you eat for 24 hours. So when we're thinking about these long overnight 24-hour flight journeys, if you can think in like, this is the thing that I'm going to eat for dinner, this is the thing I'm going to eat for breakfast, and this is the thing I'm going to eat for lunch, you're going to be a better traveler, first of all, and just happier in general when you land. So my top tip is swap some beef jerky for like a real meal.
Yeah, I have to figure that part out too, because it's just a big lunchbox of granola bars is what I bring. So,
It is
but I've
both
been
an art
pretty,
and science. It takes practice.
yeah, yeah. And I've been so lucky on flights though so far that I haven't had an issue with those meals. But I know that's like very rarefied air of what I'm saying. I'm coming
I
from a place
cannot
of
relate to
privilege.
that sentiment.
Yeah.
I've had nothing but really bad experiences with
Oh
their people.
no.
So whatever you're
Oh.
doing, the universe like you more. Please tell me.
It pays me in other ways, trust me, I have to pay a pretty steep toll. It all balances out somehow. Like, for instance, did not get to complete my journey in Italy, so I guess, 6 in one half a dozen in the other. Uh,
Yeah,
so I end every episode with some rapid fire questions, and I hope it's okay to ask you.
sure.
Um, well, this first one's not really rapid fire, but this is going to be the last big question. Then I'll go to the rapid fire. I promise. I know I said that before,
Great.
but this is for real.
All
Uh,
right.
when do you find yourself needing to advocate for yourself the most having celiac disease? Okay, so right along when I asked this question is when we came into some technical difficulties. So the audio for Catalin is a little hard to listen to, but we can only do what we can do. So her answers are still really good and feel like it's valuable for everybody to listen to the rest of the conversation. So enjoy.
Anytime I go back to the States, um, still has a special place in my heart because I grew up there. My family's there. We visit once a year to see them. But it is a challenge, and I find that to be the most challenging, ironically, because English is my first language. And still, I find that I'm asking questions and having the most conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. We got to do something about that. We got to do something about that. And we got to do something about the airlines properly feeding people with dietary restrictions. Oh,
See my fingers that we're going in the right direction.
yes, maybe someday. Okay, so here's the true rapid fire. Your favorite city for food?
Is it cheating to say Florence?
No, if that's the answer,
Florence.
that's the answer.
That's my answer.
I love it. I love it. What is your favorite city for exploring?
I really like Paris, and I've said that if I didn't move to Florence, I might have ended up in Paris. So
I love that. I have a hard time with gluten free in Paris, so that's also something where I'm going to need consultation on. Need some help.
Anne would love to help you.
Perfect. I will single handedly just always be constantly keeping you in business somehow. All the travel. And then my last question for you: where is the city that you learned the most about yourself?
Well, I can't keep answering Florence, so we'll assume that that one is a known fact. Outside of that, I visited Greece a few times. Is it last year? The year before? I don't even know where we are in the year at this point. Um, and it was really impactful to me, and I can't even really describe what it was. I just felt something in Greece. I felt really like spiritually aligned and had a really great time, and obviously ate great food. And it's not hard to get me on board with laying on the beach for days and days and days on end. So probably Athens.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Well, Catalin, thank you so much for chatting with me. Where can folks find you and sign up for your services?
Thank you so much for having me and for asking.
Yeah.
You can find us on social media. I specifically am at Celiac in Italy, and then our bigger account is Celiacs in Europe.
You can find us online, www.Celiacs in Europe, and we would love to help you out.
I'm going to make sure to put all of that in the show notes too. So people will be able to find that. No problem. And highly recommend. Your website is gorgeous, by the way. Looking at it, it's like so aesthetically pleasing to the eye. I love it.
I have no idea how much that means to me.
I'm glad I could give you that validation today. Those words of affirmation. Here we go.
Thank you.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we can have you back at some point and talk about more of the adventures that you guys are able to do over at Celiacs in Europe. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. I had so much fun chatting with you for the last half hour.
You. All right. Till next time. Thank you for joining me this week for an episode of The Gluten-Free Advocate. For more information on what's discussed on the podcast, check out the episode description and/or my Substack, The Gluten-Free Advocate. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Till next time. This episode is produced by Leigh Francis Productions.